Hey there, Chad here. Thanks for joining me. Let's play Farming Simulator 25. Now, I had started a campaign where I was playing on the Zielonka map, and I got through a few episodes, and I got corruption in the file, and I worked on it for a really long time, but I could not salvage that game save. So, in the meantime, one of the DLCs, one of the mods came out. That's the first and only map mod that I'm aware of so far, called New Frontier. And New Frontier has been kind of fun. It reminds me of No Man's Land from FarmSim25. Now, there's 3 iterations of it. There's the original, and I think this is to keep from breaking compatibility. Then there's just a standard one, and there's one that's set to be more about forestry. Now, I'm not terribly crazy about forestry in the game, and if I'm being entirely honest right now, forestry is not working terribly well in FarmSim. But I thought I'd go ahead and give this kind of a start, and I have kind of a plan on what I want to do. So we're gonna go ahead and start with forestry. And I'll show you some of the pitfalls that I've run into and ways that I've worked around those things. Now, I have a lot of mods loaded at this point, and that includes Lumberjack, and I will use Lumberjack. Of course, the map is over here. There's another one I kind of wanted to point out because it's a little cheaty, but not a ton. It's this one, the Lizard Subsoiler. So this is basically a 6-meter plow. It does require 240 horsepower, but it's very easy to use. And I'm going to use that more than anything to save some time. It is easier to maneuver than the plows that are kind of diagonal shaped. And it makes creating your own fields a lot easier, which is what you have to do on the New Frontier map. There's only a couple of fields available, and we're not really going to pursue those immediately. We probably will eventually, but not right away. We are going to turn off the free terraform and paint because I do want to pay for those things if and when I use them. I think that's the big ones, though. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Nothing incredibly unbalancing. Now, my previous Let's Play that only made it a couple of episodes was, I called it the Midwest Challenge, and it wasn't much of a challenge. It's just a set of rules I was playing by, but that includes not using any cheats effectively. And really what I mean is like things that are totally unbalanced in the game. That lizard plow is about as close as I want to get. That one's kind of borderline to me, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it anyway. But things that are like a building that, you know, holds 1 million liters of something and only costs $12, that's not what I'm going for. That's kind of cheaty to me, and we're gonna avoid those. I am going to start with $1 million again. Not exactly a huge challenge, but there's a lot to consider on this map and how you need to do things. And I've got a kind of a starting strategy. For the first year, we're just going to do forestry for the most part. There might be a little bit of farming, but forestry is going to be the focus for the first, for the first year. Forestry is going to be the focus for the first year. And as a part of that, I am going to build my own sawmill. Now, if you're new to this map, if you haven't really looked at it, let's take a quick peek. This is where we start up here, and the map is wide open. There's not a whole lot there. There are a few fields, and this is the sawmill. This is the built-in sawmill. This is the farmer's market. I'm going to build my own sawmill, though, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Basically, because forestry doesn't work incredibly well yet, makes logging and making logs and then cutting the logs down and all that makes it a little glitchy. I've had a lot of problems with it so far myself. So instead of dealing with that altogether, I'm going to build my own sawmill, and I'm just going to drag full trees to it. The trees that you take to a sawmill that you own, it's strictly by the weight of the tree is how it kind of works. You're not getting cash, you're getting wood, and that wood's getting turned into other products. And then we're going to sell those products. And for the first year, that should make us a little bit of money. Might even sell the sawmill at that point if I decide that I want to go with just more traditional farming as the full-time gig. But I'm going to buy this Area 30. This is a pretty good one to start with. It includes a house. It's a mobile home trailer. it'll include that. It's right here, and that allows us to do, sleep and do overnights. I am going to go ahead and buy these fields. You know what? I'm going to hold off on the fields. We will buy those fields, just not today. There's that house that we just bought. Here is, okay, and so then some other things to note. There's the store and effectively the service station. This is the store, and this is the maintenance shed. You can get your tractors and whatnot fixed, and you can fuel them up. That's the big things. The property line where we are is difficult to tell. These grid lines were from the early edition of the map where they've broken them into quarters since then. So each of these 4 were just one field or one property before, and they made it smaller because they're expensive, right? I just spent $130,000 on that. But the line between them is very difficult to distinguish. For our property right now, this line will show up, so that's okay, but there's no line here. It's roughly here. I think it kind of runs with this, where the cement or asphalt is here on this parking lot. And it will go up to, as I recall, just below the top of this field. And that's roughly what, well, here, we can look at it right there. Yeah, it's about a third of the way down that field. So that is our property line, and I'm going to try to stay within that. Now, I can, because the lumberjack mod allows you to, I can cut down trees that are not on my property, but I'm going to avoid that for the most part. The only time I'm going to intentionally cut down trees that are not on my property is when it impacts one of my fields and where I can't turn around or something like that. And my thought is I would probably talk to a neighbor and say, hey, that one little tree you got sitting out there, like this guy here, that one tree you have sitting right on the edge of my field, can we get rid of that? Potentially I would even pay the neighbor for it or help him get rid of it or whatever, I don't know. But the idea being, the neighborly thing to do would be, yeah, we need to make that so it's more usable for the farm. All right, so this is the little house we're going to start with, and we're still kind of on our property here. The property line for the actual map is a little difficult to see as well. It doesn't quite go as far as it looks like it should. I think it ends right about here. Nope, not there. So further down, it kind of feels like it slides in a little more. As you can see, we're not quite to the edge of that field there, though, where it kind of looks like we should be. But that is the property line, although actually you can see we own a little more than what we're actually able to get to right now. So I would guess it's where that grass changes, but I can't do anything with that. I can't get to it. So we'll stay over on this side. First thing I'm going to do is build that sawmill, and I got to kind of find a decent place for it. Kind of hard to, so flat is kind of relative, right? It's kind of difficult to find a good flat spot. We're right on that property line on the south side of it now. I don't want to go much further from here. So let's go ahead and open up the construction menu. And this would be looking kind of eastish. Okay, and I want to see if I can maybe level this out some. It will take the grass out as I do that, and that's fine. But we're going to go here, and then to level, I'm going to make it a little bigger. And I'm going to be building the $300,000 sawmill. Okay, and I'm just going to use the keys to move. I think that just makes it flow a little easier. Okay, and there you have it. That was about $5,000 worth of leveling ground. Gotta love it, right? And then we'll do the same kind of this way. And then we're going to come this way. I'd like to not go below that level, although it kind of started to here, but I think that'll work. This looks reasonable. That's kind of what I was hoping to get to. So now let's find the factory that is a sawmill, and I'm going to go with the expensive one, as I mentioned. A couple of reasons for that. Basically, it has the best throughput. It includes a couple of things that sell really well, but the overall, my main goal with it is I want to be able to turn a little bit of profit initially so that I can get my farm set up and ready to go in about a year. And when I say a year, I'm thinking like next planting season. So March and April is what I'm trying to go for. We can make about $50,000 to $80,000 a month on lumber, and so that's kind of where I'm aiming. I'm going to drop it right. Yeah, I think I'm going to go right there. There we have it. I think we can do things like name it. I owe somebody a building name. I'm going to have to check on that. We'll deal with that at another time, but there it is. And then the other thing I want to do, I really don't like the sharp drop-offs that kind of get created when you do this, so I tend to soften all of that, make it more of a natural slope. The tools for terraforming aren't horrible. They're not. They're reasonable and they're kind of easy to use. Smoothing has always been really nice. I've always liked that. But the problem is you can't go back and fix mistakes. That's just the way the game works. If I accidentally, did a bump and rise here, I lose the money, and getting it back to how it was is next to impossible. There's no undo. So those are areas that I might do a little bit of, what do we call it, save scumming. Save before I build something, mostly because I don't want to end up with what looks like might be happening there, this great big shadow of a ledge or something, and you end up with half your building 6 feet off the ground. I want to avoid that where I can. Okay, I think that's a pretty good start for that. One other thing I am going to build, because we have all of this grassland, right? This is all grass. I want to build a silo and a silage bunker is what it is, and that silage bunker is going to get used. We'll do some mowing and drop the grass in there, and we'll also sell that for a profit over the first period of time. Eventually, we would use that silage to feed livestock and things like that, and hopefully we'll get there at some point. But let's get started with the forestry first. Now I've got this part done. What's next? What we're going to do is we come out here and we're going to go into the store. Always check the discounts, and nothing here is something that I need right now. You might say, well, hey, aren't you going to want a log runner there? I am actually not. We're going to do this a little differently. If you're a purist and in demand actual simulator level participation from your host, that's me, that's not what we're going to get in this run through. You're going to have a couple of things that are done a little strange, just frankly because logging is quite difficult right now. Auto load is on its way. My understanding is it probably should hit in the next few days from what I read, but we don't have it yet. And until we do, I'm totally okay with kind of doing this a little wonky. So there we have the tractor I tend to like to get, this New Holland, and I bump it up to 300 horsepower. Tires just because. I think the rest of this looks good. Not interested in spending the extra money. So we'll go with this tractor. I'm not going to get the front loader in that just yet, but we do have a couple of other things we are going to get. First up, we're going to get some weights. The game includes a New Holland weight. I don't know if that was the case in previous editions, but we'll buy that one. The brand does not actually matter. I'm just sticking with it because my tractor is New Holland, but really I could buy any of those. It doesn't make a difference. Then we're going to go down to forestry. Oh, well, we need a chainsaw. That's actually super important. I tend to like this one. I think the sounds are a little different, and I could be wrong. Could be because I'm using headset versus speakers or something, but I like the sound of the Husqvarna in my headset, so going to go with that. And then winches. We're going to go with a winch. Now they've included yarders, and that's kind of interesting. I haven't played with that yet, but a yarder is something that like moves logs typically off of a steep slope or hill. I don't have that to deal with just yet, so I won't need to do that. But it is kind of cool that they've started to include some more advanced stuff like that. You can see this is roughly the size of a tractor here, so it's like a big derrick that you would put up, and then you shoot logs across the wires. But we're going to go with the simple, I think this is pronounced typhoon, I'm not sure. This was included in previous games, maybe as a mod, I don't remember for sure. But it is core in the game now, and we're going to buy one of these. It basically allows us to hook up logs and drag them. So we're going to do a lot of log dragging this first few months. That's going to be my principal means of transporting logs. Even with doing that, there's still some goofiness that happens, and we'll kind of talk about that if and when it pops up. But for now, we're going to go get our tractor. And there it is. And then we're going to go get some logs. And I'm going to end this episode by grabbing a few logs, and then I will set up the sawmill so that we can see what that's going to look like as we go forward, and how I'm going to have it sell stuff and all that. But for now, we got our equipment. Let's go find some trees. Well, I guess these are easy. These two trees right next to this field, they're going to have to go. This is our property. The property line, actually these trees are ours too. I'm going to leave them alone for now though. Probably need to avoid running into things where I can. You know what? I just realized I didn't do any of my game settings. So I'm going to do that real quick too. Let's stop right there. And we'll come into game settings. And I'm going to call this Let's Play. This is New Frontier Forestry. We'll save every 15 minutes. I'm okay with that. I like to do 2 times speed just so things don't get out of control. Turning off traffic, going to keep economics at normal. We will lose seasons, so that means that our calendar is very limited to what we can plant and grow in any particular year. For this, periodic plowing is going to be on. We'll leave weeds on, disasters on. Fieldstone is one that I struggle with. It doesn't impact your yields, it impacts your maintenance. Maintenance feels pretty significant as it is. I'm going to leave it on for now, but that might get turned off later, I don't know. Automatic engine start will be off. I am going to use trailer limits. That kind of ups the difficulty just a fraction. And I'm going to turn these off because they don't really apply right now. That'll work. Come back out here, save the game. All right. Now, like previous iterations, the game doesn't actually save every 15 minutes. It saves when you come into the menu after 15 minutes. It's not quite the same thing if you play for 2 hours and never hit the menu, and then you have a crash or something, you have lost all of that menu work time. So, okay. Now, the chainsaw, whoops, you have a flashlight on your items as well. I feel like they changed how you get to the chainsaw and stuff, and that's fine. Right now for me it's buttons 1 or 2, or, well, keyboard 1 or 2. And they do have it so that the tree will fall in the direction you saw. So I'm going to saw right to left. That's why I flipped the chainsaw this way. And when we do that, you'll see it move there. And the tree should fall that way, and it does. So that's good. We can remove the stump using lumberjack by holding Alt and clicking and holding for 3 seconds. That's worked very reliably for me. It's worked really well. Typically, we would want to take these branches off if we were going to sell the logs. I'm not going to be selling these. I'm going to be dragging them to my sawmill so I can keep them. But it is important to know that if the branches are still on it, does not add to the weight of the tree. The trunk is all that it's really interested in. It's all it pays attention to. So we can verify that by looking. Current mass is 2.1 tons. Open the chainsaw back up, get rid of a few of these branches. Honestly, the easier way to kind of really do it is you drag it over to the cut off a few branches and you drag it over to the sawmill. It tells you exactly how many liters of tree you've brought in, so that might be an easier way to see it. But as you can see, it still says 2.1 tons down there. None of that's changed, and it will, if we cut off all these branches, it'll stay at that. So the branches do not benefit you from a mass or weight perspective of your trees. It does hinder you when you're selling the logs to a sawmill for cash, and that's something to be aware of. Okay, I didn't actually hook it up though, did I? So don't really need to get this close. Whoa, and I hit the wrong button there. Okay, don't have to get this close to get this to work, but basically we come back here. You have to lower it first inside the tractor, but then we simply kind of look at this up here and we hit R for pull winch rope. Say that fast. And we connect it to the log using B on PC, and then I'm going to jump back in and I can drag that thing all around. Now you can hook up to 4 logs, but there is a total weight limit, and that is 6.6 tons. That tree being 2.1, I would not be able to do 4 of those. We'll just do 2 for now. Lots of jumping to get over the logs. They do block your path. And timber, probably supposed to shout that. I will do that when I'm not recording. How's that sound? You're just going to have to trust me on that. So I got rid of the trunk. There is a piece of wood that's floating around here. We can wood chip it or something. But I'm going to do what you do for the trunks and get rid of it that way. Okay, now to attach the second one, a lot of times we can just hit R and get to it, but it says that we've reached the maximum length, so that doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is hit R again, get rid of it, and then I'm going to hit Y to disconnect this log. I'm going to hit R and grab this log. I can actually go really far with this when it's the only log that's on here. When it's not the only log, you only get a couple of feet. So drag that in to right about there, and now I'm going to hit R and then B again, and that'll attach that second log. I now have both logs attached. Let's take them to the sawmill. You may want to lift. When I disconnected it, it stayed up. I forgot about that. So if you have this in the lowered position, I guess you don't have to have it in the lowered position after all. But if you do, you can raise it, and typically you'll pick up a couple of miles an hour of speed. Here's where we drop logs off, and I'm going to stop right there, get out. And if we look at this, there's nothing going on here so far, so there's no information to look at. That is in the lower right. That is an extended view. That is a mod that I added. Gives you more information on things like logs and crops and things like that. But we're going to hit R to add these logs into the sawmill. And upon doing that, you can now see that there's 6,571 liters of wood in the sawmill. That's a good start. Okay. Next, let's set up the sawmill to actually do something with those logs. Right now, it's just storing them. Nothing else would happen. We can't get them back. It's not like I can go and ask for them to spit out or something. All that can happen at this point is they get used by the sawmill. So we're going to come to this point here and manage the product point. 15 minutes, so our timer went off. It's going to save for us. Also, I don't think that timer is 15 minutes from the last time you manually save. I think it has to do with its own internal clock, but we'll worry about that some other time. But do be aware of that. So we have 4 products that this sawmill can make. It can make wood planks that are long. It can make regular wood planks. It can make prefabbed walls, and it can make beams. I'm going to make everything because that's how we maximize our throughput. And to do that, you click on it and you hit enter or click activate down here to activate that item. Now it'll start to create those. And if we sit here long enough, we'll see these numbers start to creep up and the wood will start to creep down. And that is perfectly okay. In fact, there it goes. It has created 1 liter of planks, 1 liter of plank logs, or long planks. And I think these are also sometimes called boards, by the way, in some menus maybe, or that might just be in some of the data. I'm not quite sure, but it will also create wood chips, and wood chips we will eventually have to manually deal with. They don't go anywhere, and I don't think we have a way to sell them directly. But we do have a way to sell these things directly, so I don't even have to buy a trailer for this. And since auto load isn't yet working perfectly, I'm actually not sure I have auto load yet, even as a mod. What we do is we come into these and we'll use space to change the output mode. So right now it's just going to store stuff, and when it says it's going to store it, it literally will set it right here. And that's all that's going to happen. Man, that building's loud, isn't it? And once that's full, it'll keep them internally, and as we pick them up, it'll drop new ones there. It won't put anything out until it's reached 1,000 liters. Everything's done in 1 kiloliter, I guess. Let's get back in there to quiet that down, because honestly, it's way too loud. I'm going to have to adjust that in post-production, or I guess during editing, not post-production. But anyway, what we're going to do is set these. You can set it to store. You can set it to distribute. Oh, and I hit the wrong key. You have to click on it first. I didn't hit the wrong key. I just hadn't clicked. So when we hit space, it can go to distributing, storing, selling. So when it sells, it'll literally just put the cash in your account. Every time one of these gets to 1,000, it sells it. It will sell it at a discounted price because it considers that it's doing the shipping. And I don't remember specifically what the breakdown is, but I think it's like 10%. So you're going to lose 10% when you do this. If you are totally happy with stacking the stuff yourself, you can just leave it on storing and you can move it all yourself. For me, I'd rather just go ahead and do the other things in the game and let this get handled automatically by the computer. You can figure it's farm hands that are dealing with it for you or something like that. But by turning all of these on and just auto selling them, we will make somewhere, I think we're going to make around 80,000 a month when we have enough wood. So it will use somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 liters of wood every day that it runs all of these. And so that's something we kind of have to pay attention to. We have to feed this machine. And that's a lot of trees. If you think about it, that was 2 trees for 6. So we want to get this up to, 44,000 roughly. We got a few trees we got to go cut down. Now what I like to do is kind of plan this. First of all, let's come over here. I'll talk about my overall plan. I intend to buy both of these fields and use them. And not only that, but I intend to turn this field we're sitting on right now, that's just grass, into part of that field and make it one gigantic field. It ends up being about 5 acres. And to do that, I'm going to have to take out some of these trees because, well, frankly, they'd be in the footpath of the field. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with taking some of these down. I do not like to completely denude the area. I haven't done that in any of the farm sim games where I've played any kind of forestry. I don't feel it looks terribly realistic. Yeah, personal preference, but I'm not going to take out every last one of these trees. There will still be a grove there, and we might plant additional trees around it eventually, but I will use these open spaces here, at least initially. We'll do some mowing in these, and I might build out, this might be a good place for a parking lot or something like that for equipment. We're going to need a silo, we're going to need all sorts of stuff. So, but that is my basic plan. Now let's look on the other side real quick. And our property line is right about here. I went a little too far. You can kind of see it there in the lower left. I think right about there is where we're still on our property. So I don't have a lot I can do over here just yet, but the next major purchase of land will be field 38, or lot 38, I guess. And we're going to take all these trees out that are to my left, maybe a few of them that are to the right, and make a couple of big fields down here as well. This particular one runs to about here-ish. So as you can see, that's quite a few trees that we're going to end up removing. And this will give me plenty to do for the next several months of game time. It will also produce roughly $1 million over the first, well, not quite that much. It will produce quite a bit of money over the first several months. Over the first year, it could easily reach $1 million if we're able to hit 80 to 88,000 per month. But one way or the other, we're going to make some good cash here to be able to buy plows and combines and things like that to get started. And that is my initial start for this particular map. Okay, well, I'm going to get started on clearing out some of these trees, and we'll pick up the next episode here at the end of August, probably. I think that'll be what happens. And I'll show where we land with some of those items. Real quick, if we want to open the builder, just to give a quick understanding of what this map looks like. So we currently own this line over to here, and then to about here-ish for now. That's our space, and then up to about there. The second field that we went to, its far end was right about here, and we'll end up having that. So I'm going to clear out several of these trees right now, probably clear some of this, not all of it, and take a few of these out. In the next phase of my build, most of these will come out. I still will leave a little bit of a tree wall here to kind of separate areas, but all of this will probably come out. I think these are on the property line up there, so they'll stay, but we'll be in this area here, and that's the start. That's what I plan on doing here in the next, well, the first year of this playthrough. So there you have it. I hope you saw something that might spark your interest in playing on this particular map and following along, or just having me on in the background while you're doing your thing on it, seeing where you do it way better than I do, which is almost certain to happen. I want to thank you for your time. Please consider giving a like and subscribe on my channel if you can. That does help me quite a bit. Beyond that, thanks this time, and until next time, fair travels.